Today I'm in Seattle, in the beautiful Pacific Northwest, to take a first look at Nimbus's brand new flagship, the 495 Flybridge. This boat represents a big step forward for the brand, blending Nordic design with true long-range cruising ability. In this walkthrough and test, I'll share my first impressions of the layout, performance, and handling. While owner-operator is a phrase that gets used a lot, Nimbus has built in some very specific features that really validate that claim, making the 495 accessible and manageable for boaters who want to run their own yacht. Let's get underway and see what this new flagship has to offer. Our test boat has a length overall of 49 foot 7 inches, a beam of 14 foot 9 inches, and drafts 3 foot 9 inches. The test weight was estimated at 34,850 pounds, with 55% of the 449 gallon fuel capacity on board and 4 passengers. The wind was blowing around 5 knots and the sea state was nearly flat. The temperature was 71 degrees with 65% humidity. Generally, I like to start my tests with the performance, and I've learned some things about this boat that I'm really liking. It makes the boat so easy to drive, and that is thanks to the Volvo Penta DPS and dock assist. There's essentially 4 different modes for this joystick, and I'm going to activate the joystick driving mode. Now if I nudge the joystick forward, now the boat is shifted into forward. I can steer it completely with this joystick, and I can throttle all the way up to full speed. So that's what we're going to do right now. I'm nudging the joystick forward, we're increasing in RPMs. We're in this beautiful lake in Seattle, and it is incredible to have all these mountains in the distance, and you can barely see Mount Rainier off the distance through the fog. Hopefully that'll burn off in a little bit. We'll get a really good view of it. But if I want to speed up, I'll nudge my joystick forward, and it'll hold my RPMs to control them wherever I want. So let's go ahead and get up to running speed. Now, as soon as I let off the joystick, it's going to hold that RPM and hold that speed. Now, if I want to turn the boat, there's 2 different ways that I can do it. If I tilt the joystick, it turns just like you're turning the steering wheel. But then as soon as I let off the joystick, it straightens back up like it's on autopilot. But if I twist the joystick, I can look on my MFD, and I have a compass on the top of there, and I can see where it's changing the degrees of the heading, and I can hold it until I get to my heading, let's say 110 degrees, and let go, and the boat will keep correcting all the way to 110 degrees, then it will hold on that heading. I can keep speeding up and everything I want to do and drive the boat completely without touching the steering wheel. I did this in the Flybridge as well, and when I was up there, everything is so quiet and peaceful, it was like I wasn't even driving a boat. I mean, it's almost too easy, but you should always be prudent, be watching out, and watching your surroundings, but it just makes handling the boat so easy. Right now we have a lot of the boat opened up. We have a port side window down, this large starboard door is open, and we also have the back glass, everything open, so it's letting a lot of fresh air in here as we're running, and it's not very loud. Now, visibility, just about 360 degrees of good, clear visibility. And I like how we have these rake back windshields, so if we're cruising at night, we're going to have a lot less glare and things like that. And if we do get some rain, there's less rain that's going to be on the windshields. You're just able to see better. And I might want to note that there are 6 different windshield wipers, 4 on the main glass in the front, and then actually 2 windshield wipers on the side glass. And I can control those with the paddles that are just under this steering wheel. Now, if you do choose to use the steering wheel, there's a lot of controls here in the center of the steering wheel for some of your most used items. Now, with this boat has twin Garmin MFDs, they're 16-inch, and everything in the boat can be controlled through those MFDs. There's also a few tactile buttons here that I can turn on my nav lights, a bilge pump, wash down pumps, and things like that, close the sunroof, and the VHF radio is located within easy reach as well. All right, now we're back to traditional mode. So the Volvos pick the boat up pretty well. You can hear the turbos spooling up. And as you're coming up to speed, the bow doesn't come up. The boat just rides level, and it's very comfortable. And then something else that you'll notice is whenever you come into a hard turn, the boat doesn't bank and heel. And that's partly due because of the pods. The way that they're in the hull, they're actually vertical versus boats normally, when they're designed, the pods are kind of at an angle under the hull, and that's going to lead to more heel and also a slightly less efficient propulsion if you're, let's say, moving left and right when you're docking or something like that. So it's really a better position for those pods to be in when they're vertical. That's just one of the things that Nimbus thought about when they designed this boat. How can we get the hull even better? And that's what they came up with, and I think that was a smart move by them. The boat was powered by twin Volvo Penta IPS 650s. We found the 495 to have a top speed of 34.3 miles an hour at 3,750 RPM. Her best cruise came in at 2,750 RPM, where she went 19.7 miles per hour, burning 24.5 gallons per hour and getting 0.8 miles per gallon, which is good for a 49-foot cruiser. At that speed, she has a range of 361 statute miles with a 10% fuel reserve. On our whole shot test, the boat reached 10 knots in 4.8 seconds, 20 knots in 11.1 seconds. Tell you what, let's go find somewhere to drop the anchor. Let me take you through some of the features of this boat. Why not start with one of my favorite features about the boat? And that's this side access door. It's very large, easy to come in and out of, provides a lot of ventilation, but even more importantly, it's positioned right at the helm, so you can communicate with anyone if you have assistance while you're docking, or if you're even docking solo, you can utilize this side boarding door. I can use the joystick, get right to the dock, and the boat will stay put, and I can grab my lines casually, step aboard, wrap up those cleats, and just look like an absolute professional. You may think the function of this side boarding door is something simple, but Nimbus took some time, studied the engineering on it, of just making this more convenient and tucked away. It's not taking up as much of your walkway on either side. I like seeing stuff like that. Let's go up to the bow. In order to maximize the interior space, Nimbus decided to incorporate a larger walkway on the starboard side and sacrifice a little bit of walkway on the port side for interior space. If your intentions are to take advantage of the beautiful sunshine while you're on board, the bow is going to be the optimal place to do that. This sun pad is about 6 foot by 6 foot, and the backrest will tilt up. I would say this is easy up, easy down with multiple positions. There's also grab rails either side, 2 cup holders, pop-up puck light for some ambience, and small lockers under the foot, perfect for lines, maybe a couple small fenders. On the deck, there's a receptacle for a table that you can set up right here. Maybe you're at a beautiful anchorage for the evening, watching the sunset. Be a fantastic place for a couple to have a little bit of wine and cheese, maybe some music. Now forward, we get to a little more technical things. There's an anchor locker. There is quite a bit of space down there. This was deeper than I expected it to be. And this boat has an all-chain row. We've got about 125 foot out right now, and it's equipped with a chain counter, so it just makes that single handing or running with a couple, just makes it that much easier. There's cleats and rollers up here as well. Now you can option for an electric capstan winch either side, so that would help you when you're docking. You can tighten those dock lines a little bit. You can do that with ease. And you can see something that Nimbus has on all their boats, that is a bow entry and exit point. And there's actually a swim ladder that can be hooked on here. Maybe not a swim ladder, but I would call it a bow boarding ladder. Maybe you pull up to some rocks or a dock or a beach, depending on what part of the world you're in, what region you are. They dock in different ways, so this will be handy. Next, let's venture up to the Flybridge and see what it has to offer. I did mention that the port side walkway was a little more narrow, but that doesn't mean it's not usable. They've also given us a grab rail that runs just about the whole length of the cabin top, so you can use that as you're moving forward and aft, and you still have secure footing, a bit of railing here, so it's no problem using the port side. Up at the Flybridge, there's quite a bit of seating. It wouldn't be difficult for 8 people to be up here comfortably. 5 at the table, 1, maybe even 2 on the sun lounge, and 2 in these captain's chairs. For protection from the sun or passing weather, a bimini can be deployed to shade the Flybridge. Its sturdy framework creates a surprisingly rigid structure once secured forward, adding both strength and stability. Running this boat from the Flybridge on a day like today is nothing short of a wonderful experience. I was running around earlier, still using nothing but this joystick. You're just very comfortable up here, and It's not very loud, everything's quiet. And if you still want to utilize your balance turn thruster, your throttles, your steering wheel with all your controls, you can do so. And there's still two 16-inch Garmin MFDs up here, VHF radio, controls, and a small Volvo Penta screen. For me personally, where I'm sitting, I can see just fine all the way around me. I can see the bow rail, so I'm not limited in my visibility. But if I want to utilize the bolster, I can pop it up and say I have my kids aboard and they want to drive for a little bit. They can sit here and see just fine and have the time of their lives. I know the kids will have a lot of fun driving the boat, but I think where they'll probably spend more of their time is on this big swim platform on the stern. Let's go check it out. You can instantly notice that there's quite a bit of space back here on the swim platform. It's nearly 5 foot in depth, and it goes the whole width of the boat. It's easy to deploy it with the swim platform as it hydraulically lowers into the water. And you can see there's steps that come out over on the side, just automatically deploy, and I'm doing all of this remotely. Talk about an easy way to deploy your tender or PWC right down into the water. Okay, I gotta come up a little bit. Woo! It's a little wavy. You can't help but notice these massive brackets and hardware that are holding on the back of this boat. You can also see the stern thruster that this boat's equipped with. Now, an added benefit that you may not realize is that with this in the down position, it actually acts as a bit of a stabilizer under the water, keeping the boat still. So if you don't have that gyro on, this is gonna really actually make a difference. Then these steps over here, easy in and out. There's a few important items to point out on the back of the transom. First off, in this compartment, you pull it out and you have a bit of a food prep surface here, and you have a drain. Well, this drain goes directly into a sink underneath. But there's also an electric Kenyan grill under here, so you can prep your food up here, rinse it off, flip it up, and grill. Off to the port side is another compartment, and this one can be utilized for fenders, dock lines, and large swim toys. There's also a shore power receptacle and push button controls for the swim platform. That's handy because you never know when you might lose that remote, but still want that platform to go down. There's also some storage under this step here, and this is unique because you actually technically have access to the bills down below. But Nimbus has taken and put in a very robust bag with a stainless steel frame, and it's a great place for your dock lines, and it keeps them from getting lost down in the bilge. Along the side, there's a fresh, hot and cold water shower. Moving up onto the aft deck, there's a boarding door, which can be secured in place to keep everyone safely aboard. And then underneath this hatch here, there's your cleat and a fair lead to keep your lines tidy. And once you are docked up, you can close these and it gives everything a clean appearance. Then just forward of that is a fuel fill and waste receptacle. And you have a mirror image of this over on the other side as well. Under the protection of the hardtop, there's comfortable seating for 4 or 5 adults. And you have this table that has folding leaves, so you can double it in size. And just in the center of it, there's a section that's cut out. You can actually hook a suction cup to that and remove it, and there's some storage. This table is also on a high-low pedestal. So with a push of a button, it will lower. You can place cushions on top, and it creates one big lounge. One of the first things I noticed about this boat were the supports under the hardtop, because generally hardtops don't require support. So I thought they must be there for a reason. Well, they are. This boat has a pretty unique trick under its sleeve when it comes to the back of this hardtop. You can see there is a large window that tucks away under the hardtop, and by simple pressing the button, it will lower down into place. Now this can serve a variety of benefits for, let's say it's inclement weather. With that lowered into place, you can put out your isinglass as there's tracks along the bottom of the hardtop, and you're really protected, and you can even make this space somewhat conditioned. And if the sun's too much of a bother, you can simply pull down the blinds and block it out completely. Now, something that I thought about, I would probably run this in the up position pretty much all the time, unless I had guests back here who needed to be protected. And that's essentially because I wouldn't want a lot of salt spray and stuff getting on the back side of this, when I could just keep it in the up position, keep it clean, so when I deploy it, it's always gonna be clean. Just under the deck are the Volvo engines, and there's 2 different ways to access it. For daily checks or small tasks, you have this smaller hatch that allows you unimpeded access down there. If you have some more larger jobs, you can raise this entire deck up with a push of a button and gain ample access to the engines. But not only are the engines located down there, there's things like the generator, access to a lot of your electrical components, hot water heater. It may be a small engine compartment, but things are well laid out so that you can access it and know what you're doing. If it's nice out, or if you have this aft deck sealed off, you can open the door, lower this window with the push of a button, and then you connect the two spaces, kind of like an open floor plan on a house. So no one is alienated. Maybe you have a large group, everyone is still together. Coming into the cabin, you have a bit of a split galley. Off to the port side, underneath the countertop, there's 4 drawers complete with soft close slides. You have an isotherm refrigerator, and then a pull-out drawer on the other side, but this also can be optioned with a dishwasher. Overhead, you have a cabinet with some cutlery storage in there that's embossed with the Nimbus logo, and also obviously a perfect spot for an espresso machine. This section of cabinet here, you might call it your mechanical cabinet. There's a Volvo Penta screen, which is like your main control for the entire boat. You can control things like windows, lights, air conditioning. Then in this little cabinet, you have controls for the quick gyro, your Penta generator controls, and a button up here that you can press. Basically, when you leave the boat, it turns everything off so you don't actually leave something on, and it drains your battery when you don't know it. Over on the port side is the larger portion of the galley. Overhead, there's a bit of storage. Then down on the countertop, first, I think we'll notice the actual countertop itself. It has these fiddle rails that are kind of molded into the sort of composite here. Then your stainless steel sink with a small second section, and then a top-loading freezer, and it is working because there is ice in there right now. And then you have your induction cooktop. Just underneath is a convection oven. And at the top of the oven, you can see there's a bit of a vent screen with a Nimbus logo in there. And then a little more countertop, extends a little step up, but then in this cabinet here, it's full of custom Nimbus cutlery. Another little magic trick is the access to this mechanical space just under the cabin sole. Push the button, the lid pops up, and now you have access to the quick gyro and a lot of electrical components. All your batteries and things are tucked away down there neatly. Moving forward, there's 2 small steps up to the salon. On the starboard side, just under the couch, there's 1 additional small drink refrigerator. And along this couch, you can actually pull this ottoman out. So if you need extra guests seated at the table, you have an extra seat, and there's a subwoofer tucked away under there. There's also a flat screen TV that pops up on an electric lift. Now you'll notice that there's a good bit of headroom right here. But as we move to the port side, that headroom decreases. Well, that's because of the Flybridge up top. Well, they tried to keep the profile of this boat low, and there's some sacrifices they had to make, and that was one of them. But I don't look at that as a total negative, because you're not really using the headroom here, because you're going to be seated at the salon table. You could sit probably 6 or 7, wouldn't be too much of a problem. Now this table in the middle, right now it's in the smaller mode, but you can flip these leaves out, and then by a simple pull of a lever, this table spins 90 degrees and locks into place. And with all 4 leaves out, you have a larger dining space. One thing this boat does really well is it doesn't have a lot of bulkheads or supports that are impeding your view when you're sitting here. You're still totally connected with the nature that is around you. Just opposite of the helm, you come up 2 steps, and I don't know what to call this. Maybe the companion lounge, because there's quite a bit of space up here. 2 people could sit comfortably. And I like this because not only can you sit facing forward, and if you're helping navigate, well, you have this little countertop up here, and underneath there is a bit of storage under there, so perfect for charts, or maybe a tablet if you're charting with a tablet or something like that. And you even have a little map light if you're using the old school charts. But you also have 2 air conditioning vents and a handle, you know, maybe even a foot brace under there. But maybe if you're in more cruising casual mode, you can lounge back facing forward, which isn't too bad. But I think what I like, if I'm at the helm for long hours, someone could just lounge this way and we can still engage in conversation, because we know how quiet and peaceful it is in this cabin when you're underway. If it's a really nice day and you want to let a little more sunshine, maybe a little more air in, just look overhead. The largest of these skylights opens all the way up with a push of a button, and you notice there's some more blinds there, so you can close it off if you want to. Coming down the steps into the foyer, or maybe even an atrium,
I do want to point out that they have a good handrail here. This is very substantial, but even more importantly, something that I think often gets overlooked or just not done quite well enough. There's 2 rubber strips on each step, and it really gives a lot of grip underfoot. Let's go all the way forward to the VIP cabin. This cabin has quite a bit of headroom and a lot of just visual space. I like how this lighting is done. It's recessed up into the headboard throughout the entire boat. It's just a very clean look. On top of the countertops on the edges, all this is covered with a vinyl type fabric. When you set things up here, they're not going to slide around. And of course, you have to mention the whole side windows. Quite a bit of real estate there. There's a closet on either side, overhead cabinet, and underneath the bed, I have 2 large drawers here. And underneath, I have plenty of room for all of their luggage and goodies. There's also access to some mechanical things, the chiller for their air conditioning unit, and access to the bow thruster. The starboard cabin on this boat can be optioned 2 different ways. This setup currently has 2 bunks, so if you have kids coming along or just extra guests, but you can also option this to be more like a home office setup. And there's 2 closets in here as well, so plenty of storage space. And in the bottom of one of the closets, you can option for a washer dryer combo. Both the VIP cabin and the starboard cabin share the day head, and I will say it's fairly spacious in here. I like these finishings all around, and then I couldn't help but notice these stainless steel corner trim, I guess you would call it. You have a small vanity, mirror overhead with some storage just behind, storage under the vanity, of course your electric flushing toilet, and then in the shower, the headroom continues, and overhead is a rain shower. Underfoot, I like how they've kind of taken a piece of what matches the countertop and they've made a drain out of it. There's also a small glazed window to add some privacy, but also give you some natural lighting, as well as a hand wand. Let's make our way aft to the master suite. Coming into the stateroom, you do notice that it is fairly spacious, being full beam. But something to be mindful of is that there are quite a bit of overhead variations. Well, that's due to Nimbus was trying to accommodate with the cabin above. But you do have headroom where you need it. The berth is generously sized for 2 people, and you have plenty of clearance overhead to sit up comfortably. On the starboard side, there's a large lounge. Now this could double as a berth as well, because there's quite a bit of space here, so maybe if you had some kids, they wouldn't have a problem sleeping here. But I think what I would use it for is a perfect reading spot. Look out at the view. And over on the port side, this owner went for a little bit different option. They wanted a little more storage, and so now they have 2 extra drawers underneath this countertop and 1 seat that's facing the berth. But you can option this for the same lounge that you have on the starboard side, and there's a bit of storage with a cabinet just behind me here, and this is mirrored on the other side, a little cubby underneath, and side tables with storage underneath them as well. There's ample closet space with hanging space and shelves and a safe just underneath. And then just across on the port side, there's a smaller version of this, which just shows the thought that Nimbus has put in to having storage if you're doing some long-term cruising on this boat.
Just off the entryway into the cabin, the private master head feels refined and thoughtfully designed. Though slightly more compact than the dayhead, it still offers an impressive sense of space with ample headroom and a clean open layout. Spacious shower with both a rain head and handheld wand reflect Nimbus's focus on comfort and practicality in everyday use. The sun's dropping fast as we head back to the dock, so it's the perfect time to see how the joystick with the dynamic positioning system along with assisted docking handles close quarters maneuvering. It should make docking straightforward and safe, even when you're on your own.
All right, we're coming into the dock. I've got my joystick in docking mode, which is allowing me to maneuver carefully. I'm gonna have to pivot a little bit more and drift a little bit. Now we're parallel where we need to be, so we'll just move her to the right. So now it should stop the boat right where we are. So now I can take the joystick, click it 1 time to the right, and it's going to move the boat 30 centimeters to starboard. Creeping over towards the dock really slowly. Once I get close, I can actually use my thrusters to hold me against the dock. Okay, now my thrusters are activated. We're sneaking right up onto our fenders. Perfect. After spending the day on the new Nimbus 495, I really appreciate having a boat that's so easy to dock, especially if you're solo. I'm Capt with Boat Test. Remember, life is better on a boat.